Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Tonight, the Caribbean is the stage for a dramatic escalation. U.S. warships and reconnaissance planes are on the move, heading south. This is Operation Sentinel of Freedom, a major military deployment ordered by President Trump. The mission confront and dismantle the drug cartels that have turned these waters into a trafficking superhighway. The scale is unprecedented in decades, signaling a major shift in U.S. policy. The Pentagon confirms Navy destroyers, Coast Guard cutters, and Special Operations Forces are now positioned across the Caribbean. Their goal is to intercept drug shipments and disrupt transnational criminal organizations. The message to the cartels: your time is up. In Washington, reactions are split. Some praise the president's decisive action, others warn of the risks. The White House insists this is about protecting Americans from deadly drugs. For Caribbean and Latin American nations, the stakes are high. The U.S. presence forces governments to choose cooperate or risk being seen as cartel allies. The tranquil Caribbean is now the front line in a new war on drugs. This operation could reshape security, diplomacy, and trade in the Western Hemisphere. The world is watching as the U.S. draws a hard line. The region faces a moment of uncertainty and potential transformation. The U.S. military's presence is a clear signal. The era of strategic patience is over. The operation's outcome will reverberate far beyond these waters. Allies and adversaries alike are recalculating their positions. The Caribbean's blue waters have become a battleground. The next moves will define the region's future. The war on drugs has entered a new, more aggressive phase. President Trump's order is clear. Stop the cartels by any means necessary. U.S. forces are now authorized to intercept, seize, and if needed, use force against cartel operations. The targets go beyond smugglers. Networks of corrupt officials and regimes that shelter them are in the crosshairs. Cartels are now officially designated as foreign terrorist organizations, unlocking new military and intelligence powers. Guided missile destroyers, surveillance aircraft, and elite special ops teams are deployed, assets once reserved for Middle East counterterrorism. The strategy overwhelming pressure to make cartel operations impossible. The administration argues that past approaches were too passive. This is proactive and aggressive. The opioid crisis and regional instability are driving this shift. The White House accuses regimes like Venezuela's of collaborating with cartels, fusing organized crime with anti-American governments. The goal: break that alliance and cut off the flow of drugs at its source. This marks a sharp departure from years of diplomacy and sanctions. The Trump doctrine for Latin America is about action, not patience. The U.S. will no longer tolerate regimes propped up by drug money. This military deployment is just the first step in a broader campaign. The administration aims to restore law and order to the hemisphere. The message: the U.S. is prepared to confront threats head-on. Allies are expected to step up or face consequences. The region's future hinges on the success of this new approach. The stakes are high, and the world is watching. The war on narco-terrorism has begun in earnest. The reclassification of cartels as terrorist groups changes everything. This move gives the U.S. sweeping legal powers, freezing assets, criminalizing support, and justifying military force. U.S. forces can now act directly boarding vessels, disrupting networks and striking cartel infrastructure. No more safe havens. Anyone aiding these groups faces severe U.S. consequences. Regional governments must choose cooperate fully or risk being labeled uncooperative. The U.S. will judge allies by actions, not words, raising the stakes for countries like Mexico and Colombia. The administration believes only a multi-front assault, military, financial, and diplomatic, can dismantle these criminal empires. By labeling cartels as terrorists, the U.S. is launching a comprehensive war. The pressure is on for regional partners to step up. The goal: destroy the cartel's entire support system. The administration is betting this aggressive strategy will succeed where others failed. It's a high-stakes gamble to protect American lives and secure the southern border. The era of limited engagement is over. Venezuela is now a primary target of U.S. action. The Trump administration accuses Maduro's regime of running a narco-state, protecting and profiting from the drug trade. Venezuela has become a key hub for cocaine trafficking to the U.S. and Europe. U.S. sanctions and indictments have pressured Maduro, but now military force is in play. Warships and spy planes off Venezuela's coast send a clear message: the U.S. will no longer tolerate this alliance with cartels. The regime's survival depends on drug money to bypass sanctions and pay security forces. By targeting the cartels, the U.S. aims to choke off Maduro's financial lifeline. The hope increased pressure will fracture the Venezuelan military's loyalty. the risk Maduro could retaliate, escalating the crisis. The U.S. sees Venezuela's collapse as both a humanitarian and national security threat. The strategy is high risk, but the administration believes decisive action is needed. The world is watching to see if this pressure will finally break the regime. Venezuela's future hangs in the balance. The U.S. campaign is multi-layered: intelligence, financial warfare, military force, and diplomacy. Intelligence agencies use satellites, drones, and human sources to track cartel movements and leaders. Real-time intel guides military commanders to intercept shipments and target kingpins. The Treasury aggressively enforces sanctions, freezing assets and cutting off cartel finances. Designating cartels as terrorists gives even more power to disrupt their money flow. Military assets create a blockade, physically seizing shipments and psychologically deterring smugglers. The threat of U.S. warships raises the cost and risk for traffickers. Diplomatically, the U.S. pressures regional governments to cooperate, share intelligence, and extradite traffickers. Multi-million-dollar bounties target cartel leaders, incentivizing defections and arrests. This comprehensive approach attacks cartels from every angle. The goal: dismantle trafficking networks and their state sponsors. The U.S. is betting that relentless pressure will break the cartel's grip. The fight is on every front: sea, air, finance, and diplomacy. Caracas responds with defiance. Maduro denounces the U.S. as imperialist aggressors and puts his military on alert. Venezuelan forces conduct maneuvers, invoking memories of past U.S. interventions in Latin America. Maduro frames himself as a victim, hoping to rally support at home and abroad. But today, the international coalition against him is broad, and his claims find little sympathy. The real question: will the Venezuelan military stay loyal or break ranks? U.S. pressure is designed to fracture that loyalty. The officer corps must choose: stand with Maduro or save themselves. Venezuela's fate depends on their decision. This operation is about more than drugs. It's a direct challenge to the leftist network known as the Foro de Sao Paulo. The U.S. sees a dangerous alliance between radical regimes and organized crime, with Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela at its core. The Trump administration aims to break this alliance, warning all members that the old rules are gone. The deployment is a warning shot to leaders like Ortega and Diaz-Canel. The U.S. is prepared to confront coordinated threats to democracy and stability. This marks a major escalation in the ideological battle for Latin America. The administration rejects engagement, favoring direct action and strength. The region's geopolitical landscape is being redrawn. Brazil faces a tough choice under President Lula. Lula's historic ties to leftist leaders and the Foro de Sao Paulo put him at odds with the U.S. crackdown. Yet Brazil's military and economic ties to the U.S. are vital. A U.S.-Venezuela conflict would force Brazil to pick a side, alienate Washington, or abandon old allies. Lula's government calls for de-escalation, but internal debate is fierce. The military and business sectors warn against risking U.S. relations. Pressure mounts for Lula to condemn Maduro's alleged crimes. If Brazil is seen as shielding Venezuela, it could face U.S. sanctions and suspended cooperation. Lula must balance ideology with national interests. His decision will shape Brazil's future role in the hemisphere. The U.S. has drawn a line. Military force in the Caribbean signals the end of passive containment. The Trump administration believes only decisive action can stop drugs and roll back anti-democratic regimes. The fusion of corrupt governments and cartels threatens democracy across Latin America. Regional nations must choose a line with the U.S. or risk isolation. The choices made now will shape the hemisphere for a generation. The world is watching as the stakes: security, democracy, and stability hang in the balance. The president has made his move. Now, the region must respond. What do you think of this bold new strategy? Share your thoughts below.